Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome. Firstly, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, which we are meeting today, and pay my respects to elders past and present. I am Maria Contreras, the Major Accounts Manager at triSearch. Alongside me is Matthias McKenzie, our AML CTF Product Specialist.
Hello, everyone.
From 1 July, the Anti-Money Laundering and Counterterrorism Finance, or AML CTF legislation, will impact most, if not all, your matters and the way you onboard your clients. Today is about one thing: making sure your firm is compliant and ready to operate come 1 July. During our roadshows, webinars, and other communications, we have been focused on how you build your program, train and onboard your staff. Today is a little different. We won't be focusing on legislation, the history of Tranche 2 reforms, or your AML program. Today we will cover deliberately practical stuff. It's all about understanding the customer due diligence process, how you onboard your clients, and how the triSearch Compliance Centre supports you in doing so. Before we jump in, I'll go over some quick housekeeping. Today's session is live, so if you have any questions about the content that we are showing you today, please pop your questions into the Q&A chat. We will take some time at the end of the session and answer as many questions as we can. I want to point out one thing. We can't provide legal advice in this session, so any specific inquiries, we recommend you contact Austrac directly. If you would like to revisit anything that we've shown you today or share this webinar with a colleague, there will also be a recording available later next week. Now we'll jump in to our agenda. So here's what the next 60 minutes is going to look like. We'll spend the first 20 minutes on a practical overview of customer due diligence and what your onboarding workflow needs to include. The next 20 minutes or so, Matthias will take you through a live demonstration of inside the triSearch Compliance Centre, showing you exactly how to onboard a client under the new legislation, the information you need to collect, and the process you need to follow. We'll close with 20 minutes of questions. Everything you'll see in the demonstration today is already live in your TriConvey account. 1 July is only 2 weeks away. We have deliberately timed this, so you'll still have the time to familiarise yourself with the system and build your internal processes before the Austrac obligations begin and the compliance clock starts. That window is valuable, and we encourage you to use it. Beautiful. Now let's start with the basics, because I think the term customer due diligence, or CDD, has caused more anxiety than it should. At its core, CDD is simply verifying that your client is who they say they are. A lot of what is required under the new legislation is already been done today. What's required is simply an extension of that process. There are 5 key steps to CDD under the new legislation that our triSearch Compliance Centre will facilitate. These are: number 1, everyone's familiar with verification of identity. Number 2, politically exposed persons, or PEPs. Sanctions and adverse media checks. 3, KYC, know your customer, or KYB, know your business questionnaire. Number 4, risk assessment. And the final one is the final checks. If you're using TriVI today, you're already conducting the first 2 steps. The verification of identity is about collecting identity documents to validate your client is who they say they are. This can be done in person or remotely, depending on your client's preference. The PEPs and sanctions mediaverse is used to ensure your clients are not politically exposed, have any sanctions against them, or have been involved in any adverse media. Through our Compliance Centre, this search runs in the background. Your client doesn't have to do anything here. The system will simply ping publicly available databases and return any results. Those results can be assessed the risk of your client. The KYC and KYB questionnaire is taken straight from the Austrac starter kit and is used to collect more information about your client and the transaction. For a property matter, questions on how is being borrowed, like the money, versus how much equity, the total cost of the property, etc. Through our Compliance Centre, this is automatically sent to your client along with the VOI as a digital form. Again, you can use the answers to assess the risk of your client. The risk assessment is something you will complete internally. Using the information gathered from the VOI, KYC, KYB, and search results, You can answer yes or no questions to assess whether the client is low, medium or risk of money laundering or terrorism financing. The system will automatically calculate the risk based on those answers. The calculation is taken directly from Austrac's data kits and digitised. Lastly, you need to complete final checks. Again, this is something you will do internally. It's a simple checklist you complete to record you have taken all necessary customer due diligence steps. Perfect. That is the customer due diligence in a nutshell, all facilitated through triSearch's Compliance Centre, which Matthias is going to demonstrate to us shortly. Now, depending on who your client is, there may be additions to the CDD. This can be separated into KYC, Know Your Client, and KYB, Know Your Business. The 5 steps above are sufficient for KYC when you're onboarding an individual. However, if you're onboarding an entity, such as a company name, ACN, ABN, registration details, structures, triSearch integrates directly with ASIC to pull verified data automatically back into the workspace. But identity identification alone is not sufficient. You also need to identify the ultimate beneficial owner, the UBO. This is a natural person or persons who ultimately own or control the business. In practice, that means anyone who holds 25% or more of the shares or voting rights, or who otherwise exercises effective control. If there is a chain of holding companies, you will need to trace through the structure to find the actual human at the end of it. You may be familiar with the company you are acting for, but can you name the individual who ultimately controls it? Have you verified their ID? That is what the UBO requirement asks. And in many cases, once you have identified the UBO, you will then need to run a KYC on that individual as well. Matthias is going to run through the KYB looks like through the platform and how triSearch facilitates the identification of the UBO. Now we're moving to our enhanced due diligence. In the majority of your matters, the standard KYC or KYB checks is all that you need to onboard your client. However, if a client's at high risk or you have suspicious of your client's motives, for instance, then enhanced customer due diligence may be a requirement. When enhanced customer due diligence is triggered, what does it require? You will need to obtain additional information about the client's source of funds or source of wealth. Not just what the account the money is coming from, but where the wealth was generated. You may need to conduct more extensive verification of the ultimate beneficial owner, the UBO, and any associated parties. In some cases, you are required to obtain senior management approval before you proceed. Once again, triSearch will facilitate the escalation of your client to the compliance officer or senior manager, as well as the verification of funds checks. This check will simply ask your clients to upload a bank statement, similar to what a mortgage broker or other financial professionals ask for them to do. Beautiful. So that is customer due diligence obligations under the new legislation. I want to close the content section with a direct message about timing. We hear from firms who are planning to build their onboarding process very late in June, just before obligations begin. We understand the pressure of competing priorities, but we would encourage you to build this process early. Building a new onboarding process takes time, even with a well-designed platform. Your staff need to understand the workflow, your clients need to understand why they are being asked additional questions and steps. Your existing engagement letters and client care documents may need to be updated. These are not difficult tasks, but they do take time. The firms that will be most confident on 1 July are the ones that have already run their first real onboardings through the system before that date. They'll have worked through the edge cases, their staff will be familiar with the platform, and when the compliance clock starts, they will start operating normally rather than scrambling to implement some new way and they're managing a full process. Everything in TriConvey that you need to meet your 1 July obligation is already available to you. Before I hand over to Matthias, who is going to show us how this looks in practice, I just want to remind you again that this session is recorded and we will share with you afterwards. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Maria. That was very in-depth, and we ticked off quite a few acronyms indeed. So what did we have in there? We had KYC, KYB, CDD, ECDD, PEPs, UBO. This may all start to seem like a bit of a foreign language to everyone. So what I'm going to show you right now is I'm going to go through the workflow that we have on triSearch, and we're going to go through these acronyms and we'll tick them off one by one. This is part of the new AML journey that we are all on together. It's about 2 weeks until the 1st of July, so hopefully everyone is feeling okay for it, and this session is built to build a little bit of confidence from a technological standpoint and showing you what we have. Cool. So without further ado, I just want to preface by saying that the All Whites are currently playing in the FIFA World Cup, and these are the sacrifices that we make for the world of AML. But no, very happy to be here in front of you guys and showing you the technology that we have. I'm on the triSearch website here, navigating to the AML CTF Compliance Center tab. Up here will take us in any moment to this page, this landing page within here, and down a little bit we have the designated service tracker. So this is what I was talking about. This is the free tool that you can use to help build some confidence around the legislation and what constitutes a designated service. So let's say you are a law firm. You are going to provide, there's a range of different services that are within here. But let's say, hypothetically, you are about to provide a wills and estate service to one of your clients, and the service is drafting a will. That is not a designated service. It is out of scope. There is a range of different designated services that we have inputted within this tracker here. So please feel free to leverage this at your will. Hopefully, I'm happy that you can actually see what I'm sharing now, because I was just talking over things and you couldn't quite see it. So hopefully you can all see that now and navigate it accordingly on your end. Terrific. So going back to where we were, I'm in triSearch here. I've navigated to the top right-hand side, which is the Compliance Center, and we are on the transaction summary. So this is our overarching dashboard. We can see all of our transactions. As I scroll down here, we can see all of our onboarding. So hope you can appreciate, we have dummy data in here. We have a lot of screaming high-risk escalated onboardings here with Peter William McVeigh. I'd like to think that most clients or firms within the call won't have as many high-risk clients, but you can see here we have the client name, and then underneath it is the matter reference, so that will populate from your TriConvey account as well. We have the type, the checks associated, the risk associated with that onboarding, the latest activity as I scroll across, and then the person responsible as well. So we can see that myself, Matthias McKenzie, am responsible for this. Over down below is Maria. Terrific. So we have the firm risk assessment policy and process within the Compliance Center as well. Won't go into detail on these. We have the staff training as well. We have about 10 modules of basic risk awareness training embedded throughout here. Please, the AML obligations are set to release in about 2 weeks. So if you aren't familiar with AML in general, we have these 10 modules here, basic risk awareness training to get you up to speed with the changes that are coming. Important to note that upon completion of all 10 modules, a certificate of completion is generated, to which you and your firm can claim CPD points on as well. So nice. Some double value there, getting your AUSTRAC required training, but then also some nice and easy CPD points in there. So that's all well and good. Great. Now, enough of the Compliance Center refresher. I think it's about time we start ticking off some of these acronyms that Maria was going on about. So starting off, I think we'll get into KYC. So within the all services, we'll navigate to all services. I'll go down to people, and we have a AML onboarding brackets, including VOI tab in here now. So this is new. I suggest you all pin it. I would like to think that this will be a commonly used product or service. So it should be easy to reach. That's just loading on my end. And we have landed on the dashboard. Cool. So within the dashboard, we can see all of our transactions. In the top right-hand side, I will start a new order. And we are prompted with a card. So this is our client onboarding card. We have the matter reference at the top. Again, this will populate from your TriConvey account. And we need to select the client type that we are onboarding. So whether that be an individual, organization, trust, or government body, you will select this type depending on that client. Let's start off with an individual, and this is KYC. So that's the first acronym we're ticking off here. I'll use some demo data for the sake of this live demo, just to speed things up a little bit, but you can see it's quite straightforward. We add in the first name, surname, mobile number, email address as well. I'll click continue. And this is the card that we are presented with. So a lot of you will be familiar with the VOI that we had within triSearch. We still have that VOI within here. There's just a couple extra pieces of the puzzle with that KYC onboarding form and then the PEPs, sanctions and adverse media check as well. So in a nutshell, this is KYC. So we have the verification of identity here. This over to the right-hand side of this VOI check, we can select the requisite level. So whether that be just a single document that you're requesting from your client, or if you want to adhere to the RNEC VOI requirements or 100 points, you can select that at your will. Over to the right-hand side here, we also have the method of delivery. So whether that be through a remote liveness check, a remote video recording or video call, but there's also this in-person workflow here as well. And the use case for when you maybe would wish to use this would be, let's say you have a client who potentially may not own a smartphone perhaps, they may not be very technologically savvy, let's say. They can come into your office or you can go and meet with them and you can go through this process with them. So we accommodate to those use cases as well with this in-person feature. Next is the KYC onboarding form. So this is a questionnaire that is sent out to the client asking questions relating to the particular transaction. And I'll show you what this looks like in a little moment. Next is the PEPs, sanctions and adverse media screening check. So what this is PEPs, let's tick off another acronym right here and now. PEPs is short for politically exposed persons. So that may be people who are government officials, high-ranking members of parliament, or high-ranking members of the army, let's say. They will be flagged if you are onboarding a client who meets one of that criteria. Sanctions is a sanctions watch list check. So if you onboard any sanctioned individuals or companies, you will be alerted that you are dealing with one of those individuals or companies. And then adverse media, that is a search engine scrape. So that is going through the likes of Google, let's say. Let's take the client name here, Peter William McVeigh, for example. This adverse media check is searching Google and other search engines for Peter William McVeigh, and it will flag if Peter has been in the tabloids for any nefarious reasons. Terrific. What we have below here is also a source of funds and wealth check as well. This ties into that enhanced client due diligence experience, or ECDD, another acronym that we're going to tick off. I'll get into that workflow in a little bit. Some additional services down here, client authorization form, and the New South Wales purchases declaration too. Terrific. So without further ado, I will go ahead and send this request out to Peter. I'll put in my mobile number. This is for two-factor authentication purposes. Please don't copy my number and prank call me later.
Done.
I'll click confirm. And so what's happened now is the request has just been sent to Peter. He's received a request to upload his VOI documents and then complete that KYC onboarding form as well. He will receive a secure link to a client portal which adheres to the highest levels of cybersecurity that we have within our triSearch, privacy standards. Terrific. So I want to show that KYC onboarding form. That's something that we had before. You can actually pre-fill some of this and go through this with the client It can be a dual process where perhaps you may wish to fill out just some of the early stages, and then your client may fill out a bit more of the granular questions in there. If I go edit, I'll show you some of these questions. These have been pulled from AUSTRAC. These are digitized from AUSTRAC starter kits, so they are compliant ready. They start off relatively basic. We have the first name, last name, are you known by any other names? And it's important to note that this form is logic-based, and it does branch depending on what answers you select. So let's say if you're known by any other names and I select yes, a box will drop down saying, what are the other names that you are known by? Cool. We'll get into the occupation. Are you a politically exposed person? We get into the services requested, and then other questions like, are you a sole trader? If you select yes, then some other questions will pop up around, what's the ABN and equivalent, so on and so forth. And then we have an annexure at the end as well. Terrific. I guess the use case for when you may wish to pre-populate some of this with the client would be perhaps if you are verifying one client across a range of different matters. You can reuse that VOI and populate some of that onboarding form as well. It just enhances that client experience, right? Instead of them having to reconduct that VOI on multiple different occasions. I think it's quite silly to think someone has to submit ID documents when you've just verified them for a separate transaction 2 months ago. So from a technology standpoint, we do offer the option to reuse a VOI, and you can pre-fill some of that onboarding form as well to enhance that client experience. Terrific. So what I'm going to do is simulate a consumer here. While I do that, I'm going to have a sip of water.
Yep.
I'm speaking very quick. I'm just parching myself right now.
You're really good.
Thank you.
You have a lot of information.
So much information. I've been breathing AML and
AML CTF is life. That's why I want to remind everyone that if you're taking notes, don't. Just pay attention to the screen. This is recorded, and we will provide it to you probably next week.
Yeah.
So just pay attention to what Matthias is saying.
Absolutely. Try your best, guys. Try and keep up. I'll try and speak slow. I do come from New Zealand, where AML has been around for about 8 years. So I've been in this game for a while now, so it's not new to me. So it's great that we're recording this, and it will be provided to you at a later stage for you to refer back on.
Perfect. And keep asking those questions.
Yes, absolutely. Terrific. So what I've done here is I've simulated consumer, and this is just to show the experience once Peter, the client here, has completed his end of the stick. So he's completed his VOI, that is ready for me to review. PEP's sanctions and adverse media has come back squeaky clean. That's great. Thank you, Pete. And then that KYC onboarding form, he's done that as well. From a workflow perspective, we will navigate now to the AML summary. And this is where we can get a holistic view of this onboarding here. So we can see the key credentials that have popped through. A lot of the details that populate within here have been migrated from that KYC onboarding form. So it's really snapshot view of the onboarding. As I scroll down here, we can see the CDD, or the client due diligence, which is that verification of identity, that VOI, the PEP screening check, and then that KYC onboarding form. That is CDD in a nutshell. As I scroll down here, we now have to conduct a risk assessment, and then there's some final onboarding checks to do as well. With the risk assessment, this has been populated from AUSTRAC. It is AML compliant ready, and what they are essentially scenario-based questions to which you ascertain whether it's yes or no depending on the particular transaction. There is also a risk rating attached to each one as well. So with the high value property without a mortgage, let's go through a couple of these. So the first one here is a high value property without a mortgage. Is the real estate of high value, $1.5 million, and being purchased without a mortgage? If yes, you'd select yes, and that is deemed medium risk in AUSTRAC's eyes. As I scroll down here, another one is physical currency. Is your client paying with physical cash in hand, so notes and coins? If yes, you'd select yes, and that is deemed high risk. Next one is virtual assets. So is your client paying or funding this particular transaction with Bitcoin? If yes, you'd select yes. If no, select no. There is about 15 of these risk assessment questions to go through, and upon completion of all of them, you will update the risk, and then that will give or attach a risk score to this onboarding. As I scroll up here, we can see that Peter has been flagged as high risk because he has turned up to our office with physical currency. He's paying for this with physical notes and coins. AusTrack deems that to be high risk. Now, in line with your AML policy, or depending on your risk appetite within your firm, enhanced client due diligence, or ECDD, may be triggered. So he's turned up to your office, let's say hypothetically, with physical notes and coins. You may wish to conduct a source of funds and wealth check on this individual, or Peter in this instance. ECDD has been triggered. Let's do the relevant checks. So how this works, it is a source of funds and wealth request that gets sent out to Peter. He opens up his client portal, to which he can then provide some bank statements and any other supporting documents as well. And then once he submits that, we have some proprietary AI which scrapes through those bank statements and produces a summarized report for your review. That is on the off chance if you do onboard someone who is high risk, or who seems to be a little bit high risk, something seems a little bit fishy. From a technology standpoint, we have you covered here. It may be completely plausible. Peter may have had grandparents who were very cash heavy and he inherited a lot of it, or he may have won big at the casino. But this ECDD function here really is a way to show AusTrack that you are taking the right measures when conducting these onboardings. We also have a escalations feature in here as well. And how this works is if you onboard an individual who is high risk and you want a little bit more of a risk-based support internally within your firm, you can conduct a escalation trigger to your compliance officer. There are a range of different triggers in here. You can provide any escalation details, so you could say seems suspect, please assist. You can also attach any supporting documents as well. I'll click submit, and so what's happened now is your compliance officer within your firm has now been alerted via email with a link to this onboarding, and they can then conduct a review. So they can provide rationale on how they wish to proceed on this onboarding. Perhaps they wish to offboard the individual, or they can conduct the source of wealth or funds check. Completely depends on how you wish to conduct or use that function within your firm. There is some final onboarding checks as well. That's something that Maria mentioned as well. We have some final onboarding checks. This is something that you're required to do per onboarding. It is a tick box exercise, pretty much saying you identify the client, you understand the nature and purpose of the business relationship, and it's you confirming that you are comfortable with this onboarding and you're happy to do work with them. By and large, I would like to think that the top three pieces that you see here, so the VOI, PEP, Sanctions, Adverse Media, and the KYC onboarding form, along with the risk assessment and final onboarding checks, are all that you will be doing. However, if you do onboard someone who may seem a little bit high risk, ECDD and this escalation function is where that will be used. Terrific. Important to note, we have an audit trail within each onboarding as well. So this shows line by line item, each activity, date and time stamped, showing everything that was conducted. So we can see here that I sent out a VOI, for example. Terrific. How are we going for time? I think we're good.
We're good, yeah.
Terrific. Next, let's get into KYB. So we've ticked off KYC, we've ticked off PEPs, we've ticked off CDD, we've ticked off ECDD. Now it's time to get into KYB, which is Know Your Business. Cool. I will navigate back to our AML onboarding dashboard. We'll go through that same process again. We'll start new order, and then what we'll do differently is we will select a organization rather than a trust. So again, I'll use some demo data here again. What we have is we will input our ABN and ACN here. We have the legal name too. Due to the nature of us having a direct API integration with ASIC, you will be able to look up ABNs or type in legal names, and then they will start to populate, and then that will be a starting point for you guys. Terrific. You also select the party. So this could be a representative or it could be your direct point of contact to which you can request information from. So in this instance, I have trustee Peter McVeigh again. We can select him as a representative, controller, UBO, up to your decision. I'll mark him as a representative in this instance, and you also have the option to add additional parties in here as well. Cool. I'll click continue, and what we have here is a very similar user interface to what we just showed you on that KYC aspect. Okay, so we have the McVeigh Corporation up here. We can see it's been listed as an organization. We have the ABN or ACN here. Very similar. We have the KYB onboarding form now, and there's a PEPS sanctions and adverse media check to be conducted. So essentially the same, just on a company. Only thing that's different here is that we have a ASIC organization extract that's within here as well. And this is how we can determine who those UBOs are, who those directors are within a company, and who you need to VOI or KYC accordingly. Terrific. So as I scroll down here, we can see we have Peter William McVeigh. He's our primary representative. He may also be a UBO as well, to which we can send those according checks as well. Source of funds, source of wealth, again, ties into that ECDD situation. You can use this at your will, depending on your risk appetite and your risk profile too. Again, the additional services here as well. What I'll do is I will click continue. Oh no, I don't want to put my number in here again.
For anyone that didn't take a snapshot of it.
Yeah, please don't.
Here's your chance.
I'll be passing them on to Maria. Terrific. So I've made the order. Again, due to the nature of us having a direct ASIC integration, all the information you're getting relating to the company or organization that you are verifying is true from source. There's no third-party data, and it means that we can pull those ASIC extracts, in a blink of an eye. We have the completed ASIC organization extract here. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and view this. We'll take a look at the extract, and then we'll understand who needs to be verified accordingly, right? Who are the directors? Who are the UBOs? And then it really starts to paint a picture of this particular onboarding. KYB onboarding form, I'll go ahead and show you what this looks like. Quite similar to the KYC, however, it's more tailored to the organization level. Starts off with some entity information. For example, is the entity registered in Australia? If yes, is the entity registered with ASIC? No. Then it branches off into different questions as well. You can, again, pre-fill this with your clients if you wish to go through and help them with this. It goes into areas around is the entity run or controlled by a government body? These are all being pulled off the AUSTRAC starter kits, so they are true to the AML legislation. Gets into the services requested as well, representative, so on and so forth. Terrific. I've just clicked back there. It's important to note that we understand that with the new AUSTRAC requirements, that record keeping is a requirement for 7 years. We've got you covered there. We store everything in triSearch for 7 years. We block out, or I guess what's it called, override any personal identifiable information. So it's essentially just a report that you are going to be generating and that we're storing on behalf. Great. So that's it for KYB. KYB from a trust perspective, I think do we have time to go through that really quick?
We can really quickly just smash it out.
we can
which is essentially the same workflow, right, as KYB, it's just a couple more checks.
Exactly. Yeah. So I can talk you guys through how that works. We have our onboarding card here, similar situation, use some demo data. Again, Peter McVeigh, he's my best mate. We have the McVeigh Family Trust here, ABN or ACN. You can select Peter to be the type of representative here. Click continue. We have the onboarding forms. How this will work in practice. Trusts, there is not much public information online for them. A trust deed, along with any amendments, is the source of truth for you to identify who needs to be verified or checked accordingly. And so whether that may be the appointers, trustees, or beneficiaries, you will obtain that trust deed, understand who needs to be verified, who are those trustees, and then you will add the parties in here. Upon saving that, you will send the relevant VOIs out to those individuals.
What you have just seen is a complete documented customer due diligence workflow running inside the platform you already use. So that's both TriConvey and triSearch websites for our website clients. I want to leave you with 3 points before we go to questions. First, the process you have just seen is the digitized version of the requirements AUSTRAC has already been communicating with you and the guidance through the starter kits. You're not learning anything new today. You are seeing how to implement what AUSTRAC already expects in its guided, consistent, auditable way. Second, everything you saw today is already available to you through TriConvey and triSearch website. You have a few weeks left from then before your obligations begin to familiarize your team with the platform, run your first onboardings, and refine your internal process. Third, if you're not already using the VOI for your property matters, now is an ideal time to start. We do have a couple of questions about Australia Post that we will address, but I just want to say you will be using it as part of your AML and CTF onboarding from 1 July anyway. So take a guess and just keep using the VOI, and if you haven't already done so, I suggest using it because it's going to be forming part of your workflow. Now let's open for questions. Please the Q&A panel, if you haven't already done so, to submit yours. Matthias and I will both jump in and answer the questions.
Terrific. Now's the time to ask any burning questions that you may have, ladies and gentlemen.
We have a few.
That's great. We love to see it. It's important to note that we are by no means legislative experts. Every question that we are capable of answering are all based around the product itself. We're not legislation advice. We're the tech guys. So
we just give you the tech that helps you.
Yeah. Any legislative questions may be a little bit curvy and we don't want to give you the wrong answer.
That's it. Well, the first one is a product-related question. Does the KYC onboarding form pre-fill the name and address from the TriConvey file?
That is a great question. I'll let you take that one, Maria.
Yes, very easy. So it has complete integration. So yes, we can do that. Nice and easy one.
Terrific.
Is there extra cost for KYC onboarding and PEP searches? No, there's not. Everything is part of the onboarding that's already available to you. Yep. Now, if you have commenced a VOI, for instance, and the charge has gone through, you can go later back into the file and then order the PEPs, the KYC. You don't have to do it all in the one section.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bundled cost, everyone. So let's say you just do a PEPs check to start, you can still go back to that onboarding and do source of funds or VOI, all within that same cost. So that remains the same.
Beautiful. This is something that you've already addressed, but we'll address it again. Can you populate the client KYC form before the process is set out to the clients?
At the moment, it is a process that is done after you've sent it out, and the reason for that is because I guess it's the notion around you completing the onboarding forms for the client. We don't quite want that because there is a consent sign-off at the bottom. The client should be the one to be completing that KYC onboarding form and signing it off. So you can pre-fill it after it's been sent out, and you can two-prong it, so both work on it at the same time. That's how it works.
We did get another question as well, if you're able to print out the KYC.
KYC onboarding form?
Yeah, the questionnaire.
Currently, no.
No. So in theory, just to make it easier for your client as well, everyone has access to a mobile phone or a computer. They can come into your office and you can complete it together. But ideally, you'd want it all electronically because that's how it stores the records as well in the background.
Yeah.
Especially when you get audited.
For sure.
Beautiful. You've got lots and lots of questions.
Great questions, everyone.
Yeah, very good questions.
We'll try our best.
Can you please send the KYC form and PEP forms to us separately as we need to translate for some clients who do not speak English?
That's a fantastic question. So a feature request a function that we are currently developing, and it's a top priority for us, is translating those onboarding forms. hope you can appreciate that that is a big piece of work. There are a lot of languages out there. It's a matter of us printing those out and then providing them to you. So that's something that we can facilitate. Terrific. So we have a question here. So how do we do a PEP check on any alternate name within triConvey? I'll hand that over to you, Maria.
How do we do a PEP check on an alternate name within triConvey? So you can run another PEP sanction search through the All Services tab if you've already done so. So if it's part of the onboarding, it's going to automatically take the name that it's in the triConvey file. But then if you need to do another subsequent PEP sanctions and adverse media search, you go into All Services, and I believe it's under People.
Yes.
Yep, and then you'll just run it from there. Do we only start onboarding transactions from 1 July? As currently our transactions on Compliance Centre is 0.
Okay, so that's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
There's a couple things to note within here. The transactions will only populate into your transaction summary if you're using the new AML onboarding bundle. So there is a standard VOI service there that will no longer translate to your transaction summary. The new AML onboarding tab or workflow will. The question on whether you need to verify them before 1 July, it's hard for us to give guidance on there. This ties into that pre-commencement date, and there's a lot of different variables in there. So does the service you're providing settle after 1 July, but you were engaging them before 1 July? I would err on the side of caution and just say yes, I would verify them and go through the process. However, there's a couple different nuance within there.
We did get a questions about the transactions that have started before 1 July. And as Matthias explained, what I suggest you do is if you know that the client is purchasing $50 million in cash, for instance, and you exchange contracts on the 20th of June, I would go through the whole process with them, KYC and all of that stuff, just to cover yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it would be a high risk.
Here's a good question. How do you know when enhanced CDD is triggered? And this is a great question. I think it really is a firm decision that you make internally. It really depends on your risk appetite as a firm, right? So there may be some firms out there that as soon as a true positive PEP is flagged, that you would conduct enhanced client due diligence. Or let's say something just seems a little bit suspect. You haven't dealt with the client before, you've never met them in person, perhaps within your AML policy, you would conduct enhanced client due diligence. There are also those risk assessments that you go through. So if one of those have been flagged as high risk, that may trigger enhanced client due diligence. So a lot of these triggers will be detailed within your AML policy.
Can you please confirm if ordering the PEP search should be standard for all clients and onboarding? Yes, for every single one. Come 1 July, it is going to be part of your onboarding to do a PEP sections and adverse media search in the background. You don't tell your client you're running a PEP search on them. Yeah. It's just done as soon as I believe the VOI is commenced. When you press order and you tick the box that you want to do the PEP sanction search, it's just going to come up in I think it's like 2 seconds.
Absolutely.
And it comes up with the information.
I think just to go a little bit deeper on the actual function of that PEP sanctions and adverse media check, it's to identify risk. It's to alert you of the potential risks that you may face when onboarding individuals. That's not something that your client will know about. It's not something they need to complete. It's something that will happen in the background for you to then take the risk-based measures on how you would like to proceed with that onboarding.
That's right. And not just because someone is politically exposed, that means they are of dodgy nature. It just pretty much flags it. And based on your policy and procedure, it's how you're going to handle, how you're going to report.
Yeah. Cool. So I'll throw a question over to you, Maria.
Yep.
If a client is on title as Smith and they have since married to Jones, do we have to do a PEP search on both names?
I would do it on both names.
Yeah.
Yes.
Me
but
too.
Then again, it's based on your policy and procedure. We're not here to give advice, but I would do it on both.
Yeah. Cool.
So is there an additional cost for PEPs and adverse media checks? Nope, that's all in the bundle. Yep, so that's a good one. All functions available.
A lot of these, we're getting into
already,
the nitty-gritty of PEPs and sanctions.
PEPs and
Everyone wants to know
sanctions.
about it.
So is the full functionality, yep, there's the full functionality available now in the Compliance Centre. Yes, it is. As we pointed out, everything is live. You can start trialing it. What I suggest you do is, if you have a good client that you want to trial this on, get the feedback, because based on the feedback that you receive, you know the talk tracks. You know how to explain to your clients why you have to do these checks, because come 1 July, you have to do these checks for all of your clients.
Yeah.
And you want to arm your staff members and yourself on how to handle, especially the backlash.
Yeah, no doubt. Fantastic question that's coming here. So can you please confirm that bank statements, brackets, source of wealth and source of funds checks are only required if there are suspicions of high risk? Ties back to what I was saying before, all depends on your risk profile, all depends on your risk appetite. So if something triggers a high risk, then you may wish to go through that enhanced client due diligence workflow. It's a firm decision that you will make internally.
Yeah. So you would have answered the yes or no for the risk assessment, and based on that information, whether it is triggered high risk, then you would have to do the enhanced due diligence.
Yeah.
So we've got one last session. I think it was mentioned that if we have done a face-to-face VOI, there is a way to do the KYC and PEPs without new VOI. Can you please show us how to do that? I don't believe that feature is available yet, but I think from memory that you are going to release something that allows clients to put a VOI.
Yeah.
They don't have to commence another one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's that reuse of VOI workflow.
Beautiful.
Question here. So does the question regarding how we're funding the property settlement within the KYC onboarding form change whether it's a sale or a purchase? Now that's a fantastic question, and I want to advise people who are attending to, this is all live now and ready to go. You can test this stuff. I recommend going through that KYC onboarding form and really understanding, the different logic and branches that are within there. I'm not too familiar on all the details of the KYC onboarding form, but this is a good segue to encourage you guys to go and check it out.
Even run one on your test file. See how that looks.
Yeah.
We've got one here, a really good one, about Australia Post. What if clients want to complete VOI via Australia Post or in person at our office? How do we upload the external VOI? Now, for good record keeping, and as a one-stop shop, we do recommend using the triVOI function within the AML onboarding workflow, because that does capture it. And Matthias, did you want to explain how the triVOI works when it comes to the identification of the clients and how it goes back to the DVS? I'm
not too well versed on the DVS,
right,
to
so
be honest, Maria. Oh, you are. Yeah, I'll let you handle that one.
Yeah, because you're the product guy. I thought I'll give you something. So with the DVS system, it's not just uploading a driver's license or a passport. That's just like sending it via email. What our system does is it taps to the authority. So it actually detects fraud. So it goes one step further than just sending documents for verification. That's why I recommend, if you're doing Australia Post, recommend sending your clients to do a triVOI. Even at your office, we understand some clients are not technologically savvy. You can go through the whole process with them. They'll just bring their documents at your office, and that way you can just take copies of them and then upload it in triVOI yourself, just to help them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Very well said. There's a question here, and I'm seeing it quite common, and it's around trusts and trust onboarding. So in a previous life back in New Zealand, I used to onboard a lot of trusts, so I can maybe share a little bit of colour on the workflow, but a lot of it really does depend. So with trusts, the question here is, how do we decide who to onboard? So in a nutshell, it will be the people who have effective control or who ultimately benefit from that trust, right? So the people who have effective control will probably be the appointers, because they are the ones who appoint trustees within a trust. And then you also have the trustees themselves, they have significant control. When you have beneficiaries, it depends on the type of trust that it is, whether it's discretionary, non-discretionary, bare trust. There's different levels to it. So I think in not every instance, every beneficiary will be required to be verified, because there may be some trusts out there that have 50 family members involved. So I think really reading on the AUSTRAC guidance there around what is required to be verified on a trust standpoint, but they are relatively complicated, and I would start safe and go appointers, trustees, maybe beneficiaries.
It's funny because I asked you that question just before this session.
Yeah, and it's important to note you need the trust deeds and the amendment deeds as well. So the most recent amendment deed will give you the most up-to-date trustees and appointers who are required to be verified as well. Hopefully that gives a little bit of guidance on trusts.
Too easy. You make it sound easy. We've got a good one now. If a client is flagged as high risk, what do we do with that information? Very simply, if you've got a client who is high risk, so your staff members have pointed that they are high risk, they have to escalate that to the compliance officer like Matthias went through today. It's up to the compliance officer based on their policy and procedure how to proceed with the client. Whether they're going to onboard them, and if they do choose to onboard them and take them on as clients, they have to report them to AUSTRAC, or they can choose to offboard them, which means they don't want to act for the client anymore. They don't have to report them to AUSTRAC, but that means you're choosing not to act. I just want to point that out because I've got a few clients that said, oh, we'll just offboard them and we don't have to report them. We can continue with the transaction. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. You can't get out of this obligation.
Yeah. A good question here. So does the compliance officer check all clients that come through the door, or is it only escalated to them if they are higher risk? For example, we have another conveyancer but is not the compliance officer or senior manager. This is I guess I'll tie this back to an internal decision. By and large, it depends if you are confident in your client-facing staff to conduct these onboardings. If you are a compliance officer and want to have complete oversight, perhaps that may be a process that you look at every onboarding that's conducted, or if you want a little bit of a low touch and you trust all of your client-facing staff to, follow the rules and follow the process and conduct that risk assessment adequately, then it's completely up to you. The answer to that question, though, is no, the compliance officer doesn't need to be across everything. It's more so those high risk and definitely the escalated onboardings that rise.
Beautiful. Got a final question here. Really good one if you don't know whether you fall into designated services or not. The question is, what if our firm is not sure whether we're providing a designated service? This is something you covered, Matthias, with the designated service tool on triSearch.
Yep.
You can go through and then just pretty much click what sort of a transaction you have, and based on that information, the system will let you know whether it is a designated service or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Free tool on triSearch website.
Yep.
It's on the AML CTF Compliance Centre tab. There's a designated service checker in there. Very valuable tool we've been hearing across the board, so recommend you take advantage of it.
You can't miss it. It's on the banner as soon as you get on the website.
Exactly.
And if you forget, just let your account manager know. We'll point it out to you.
Yeah. Great questions, everyone.
Beautiful. We do have plenty of questions, but don't you worry. We will review them and we will respond. Now, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you'd like to book a personalised demonstration, simply scan the QR code that's on your screen. Your account manager or a member of our sales team will get in touch to book a session with you, a one-on-one personalised session as well. If we didn't get to your question, as I mentioned earlier, don't worry. We will be sharing all submitted questions with your account manager so you can follow up with them directly. As a reminder, everything you've seen today is already live in TriConvey account and triSearch. That gives you just under 2 weeks to get familiar with the platform, complete your setup and start running your first onboardings before 1 July. The firms that start preparing now will be ready to operate with confidence from day one. And lastly, after today's session, we will receive a recording of this webinar via email and will also be available in the triSearch website. Thanks again for your time, everyone, and we look forward to supporting you through your transition.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's been great. And if I may sign off with one quick thing. Coming from New Zealand, AML was not well received. We understand that it is a brand new regulation, but when you have the right technology to support you through it, which we showed you today, hopefully, it does start to become standard practice and it will be easy.
We're here to support you. If you've got any questions, please reach out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
See ya.
Bye-bye.